Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ajoe21love. Here, back at again for Sports OV Topics, episode number 71. Thank you for joining me. Today on the podcast, we'll be going over week 7 of the NFL season. Not as much close games, but a week of very wide margin, interesting games in that aspect. Going with that, of course, I'll be going over my Week 8 predictions, as well as going over UFC 267, as well as the World Series matchup has been lined up so far, so I'll give my thoughts on that as well. But was a good week. Very good week. Now, as far as predictions go, now only 13 games, 6 teams were on a bye. However, now I know fantasy and aspect, and if you're a fan of those prospective teams, Bills, Cowboys, Vikings, etc., and Chargers, that it'd be a little bit of a difficult week, but as far as predictions go, I almost cracked the code. Almost. I was 12-1 with my predictions this week. The only game I picked wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong, but at the same time, this close. Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Now, it was a close game throughout. Might as well start with that. The Bengals went to Baltimore on Sunday, and it was a struggle for both offenses throughout. It was 13-10 at halftime, and felt like it was just going to be battle, for the first place in the AFC North. And Jamar Chase, if you hadn't gotten notice of him before and discredit him, you have to take notice of him now, especially when it comes to Rookie of the Year. He is not only arguably the best wide receiver this year, but he's also one of the best wide receivers already with what he's doing. Over 200 yards receiving from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had 416 yards passing in a 41-17 victory in Baltimore, routing the Ravens, catapulting them to first place not only in the division but in the AFC is Cincinnati. So very good feat for the Bengals and Joe Burrow. You know, people, I understand why. You know, he had that great season um, with LSU that ended his college run, and then he was number one overall pick by Cincy, and then he did well up until he got hurt, and then Justin Herbert at the same time was having a great rookie season, and automatically became Herbert over Burrow, and then people start saying, "Well, the it's now Herbert over Burrow." Now people, And then coming into this season, the expectations for the Bengals were okay, they were going to be fun to watch, and perhaps they get around 500. Uh, but they're not really a playoff team with what's around them. But after going in the draft, free agency, their offensive line has really improved from last year. I mean, Jonah Williams, another year at left tackle. Jackson Cartman, who they got in late in the draft, he's been a good force. And then Riley Reef, veteran who veteran tackle who spent many years with the Vikings. They picked him up as well, and that line has just improved, and the defense has improved much better for the Bengals. You know, Jesse Davis or Jesse Bates, excuse me, Jesse Bates, pro safety, and then Von Bell, arguably the best, if not one of the best, safety duos in the NFL. And then you got DJ Reader, Sam Hubbard, Logan Wilson, um, that, and Trey Hendrickson, the other guy. They picked up massive contract. They paid him in the offseason, and he's a contender for Defensive Player of the Year as well with the year he's having. But it's just good to see for Cincy, considering all they have endured. And of course, they had that 5 straight reign in the playoffs, but obviously they win a playoff game, and they have not won a playoff game since the early 90s. I think if this team, assuming it makes the playoffs, they are definitely going to be a threat to win, to break that curse of the playoffs. As far as the Ravens go, you know, the injuries are were still at hand. Um, Latavius Murray, he was out. So, again, another injury, and without Ronnie Stanley for the rest of the season, that's a blow. But defense held tight for the majority of the game. It's just when Jamar Chase and CJ Uzama and Joe Burrow broke through, it just kind of collapsed the dam pretty much. But they're still 5-2. They're still very much in the thick of things, and you know it happens. Defense or divisional game, just the way it is. But now getting into the start, so officially week 7 started with a strange but interesting game on Thursday night. Broncos going to Cleveland, the dog pound, to take on the Browns. Both teams 3-3. Both teams need a win. Broncos, as you know, were 3-0 and then lost 3 straight. Browns, they were 2-1, but and then all of a sudden the injuries piled up and they were kind of reeling. But their defense and their running game, despite injuries, they got Jedrick Wills back, which helped. And Jarvis Landry, who went out, unfortunately, but he had a good night as well. They held tight and held the Broncos to only 14 points. And again, very much needed win as they ride the stretch with divisional opponents, starting with Halloween night or Halloween facing the Steelers. But good gutsy win. Case Keenum did well. He didn't do any great throws, but he didn't lose it for them. He just steered the ship. Dearness Johnson, he had a hell of a night as well. Over 100 yards. Because he played at a minimal last season. And with the injury of Nick Chubb, he got more time. But once Nick Chubb came back, it was just all Chubb and Hunt. Now, Nick Chubb is reportedly due to come back. But with Kareem Hunt going to be out a few games, I'm sure Dearness is going to improve his workload as well. So then, but about the Broncos, one more touch. So they are trailing, and it just does not look good. And I don't know, we'll just have to see. But yeah, it just doesn't look good right now if you're the Denver Broncos. Then we move to the other Sunday game. So in New Jersey, it was Carolina Panthers going to face the Giants. The Panthers, they started off 3-0 like the Broncos, and they have trailed and fallen back since. And the Giants, we know, they're better than what the record has been. They've had some mismanagement in some games, which would have made the record better. I'm not saying they would have been over 500, but I'm saying they would probably be above 500 and manageable as far as the record has been. But they contained the Panthers and made them kind of look lost. 25-3. Sam Darnold was benched for PJ Walker. I mean, Darnold, it's strange because, look, we all know that he had a bad faring in with the Jets. And first three games, starting 3-0 for Carolina, it was kind of like a honeymoon phase. And Darnold, he didn't look great, but he looked good. And then Christian McCaffrey went down in the Texas game. And then their offense just felt kind of vanilla, pretty much, without him. Now, Chuba Hubbard is still really good. I had him as one of my sleepers in the draft. But still, it's just this offense needs a push. Needs push, and that defense is not looking as good as the start of the season. They just need more confidence, pretty much. As for Giants, good win. Still battling some injuries. Saquon Barkley's still out. See about Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney, but still good win for the Giants and their defense. Help holding the Panthers to only 3 points. And then, if anybody was hungry for a 50 burger, they got it on Sunday. As the Patriots, who would have thought? scored the first 50 burger of the year, I would think, against the Jets. 54-13. Now, I get it. Divisional game, Zach Wilson was knocked out of the game with was now a PCL injury. Um, Mac Jones, he wasn't great, but he was still very efficient. Um, Running game still was very well, despite no Ramondre Stevenson. So very much got done, and good to see. Patriots one game under 500, and they got some winnable games. They're not winning the division with the Bills, but looking ahead, there's some games they can win to keep them in the running for a potential wild card. That's our Jets. Look, I like some of their new young players, but I think it's gonna take time. And you know, I like Robert Saleh. I think they got the right coach. They just need time. And you know, to get some more good players. Because Zach Wilson, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, I mean, that's pretty much your nucleus for the offense. And they're all rookies. So that's a very much tough test. And there's going to be learning curves. But, I'm sure it's going to come uh, throughout this year. And still looking for improvement, is pretty much. And then, just when the Panthers only scored 3 points, Chiefs second that. The Chiefs second that with only 3 points as the Titans blew out the Chiefs 27-3. Now, it's one thing to say the Titans blew out the Chiefs, but for the Chiefs to only score 3 points, and the Titans' defense is nothing exceptional, but they made plays, they made turnovers. It just adds more to the trouble that Kansas City is in. They just, on the bright side, they only held them to only 27 points, but their offense is trouble. Because once again, the formula is out there. And it's just odd. Now, looking at the rest of their schedule, it's going to be a tall order for them to make the playoffs now, especially with the Raiders and the Chargers looking very good as well. As for Titans, respect to the Titans. They beat the Bills in a thriller. Yes, you can say it came down to fourth down play, but bottom line, they beat them and they blew out the Chiefs, the darlings of the NFL, and who have represented in the AFC Championship the last 3 years, and the Super Bowl the last 2 years. You have got to put respect on the Titans And yes, I know they lost to the Jets and they were blown out by the Titans, but this is a week to week league. And looking back at the last week the Titans have had, you can't help but say a team has not had much of a better 7 day span than these Titans have had. And Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill didn't do a lot. Derrick Henry had under 800 rushing yards, and Tannehill threw for 270, so nothing flashy, but got it done. And they're 5-2 as well. Next was pretty much a defensive kind of battle in Lambeau. The Packers win their sixth straight, this time over Washington, 24-10. There were times when, now, this game felt like it was closer than the score indicated. There were a few times when Washington was down by the goal line, and they had numerous times to go for it, which I get. It's the Packers, it's in Lambeau. Your team's record is kind of disappointing. But yeah, 24-10, they just could not make the plays when they counted, and that defense by the Packers is improved. Um, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to do a lot. He just has to do enough, and that's good for Aaron Rodgers to not have to be Aaron Rodgers in a way for that team to win, which is a good thing. And then what was probably the game of the day as far as storyline is concerned turned out to be one of the games of the day, pretty much the way it played out. The Rams and Matthew Stafford hosted the Lions with Jared Goff. Both QBs facing their former teams. Goff versus the Rams, Stafford versus the Lions. This was a dicey game because the Lions, the winless Lions, they threw it all out there. Like there was no tomorrow. They, with trick plays, with going for it on fourth down, with fake punts, they threw it all out there. And they gave the Rams all they could ask for. But ultimately, the Rams pulled through. Matthew Stafford had to be a good feeling as they win 28-19 against the Lions. Yes, the Lions lose another and stay winless. However, it was a very good effort by the Lions. And the Rams moved to 6-1. So very good on all parts. But the Raiders, another team you have to watch out for. The Raiders, they win in Vegas against the Eagles 33-22. Derek Carr is taking a better role. They had no Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs was still shaken up, but they pulled it through. And with under interim coach Rich Bisaccia, they have real they have galvanized, and they are 2-0 under Bisaccia, and they are in first place of the AFC West. And another team you have to be careful with and not underestimate. Now, we've seen it the last 2 years where the Raiders have gone to really good starts. 6-3 2 years ago, 6-2 last year. So it's going to be a question of staying the course and not having a bad end of the year, pretty much. But good for the Raiders. You know, Eagles, I figured, you know, they are just in a bad spot. I would say the Eagles are. You know, rookie head coach Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, you know, I mean, his second year, really, it's more like his first year and a half. But I mean, it's just not a good situation for the Eagles. Now, you can't blame it all on either one of them, but at the same time, you would hope they would look a little bit better than they have looked in recent weeks. The Cardinals, speaking of staying the course, Cardinals are 7-0, 7-0 for the first time in, I believe Chris Berman on Monday Night Football said 74, 1974. So, yeah, 31-5 over the Texans. It was 5-0 for the Texans, but 31 points since, and, you know, Cardinals just pulling away. I feel kind of bad for Laremy Tunsil and Davis Mills and all this, but it's just this dark cloud has been looming over the Texans, and it just continued and continued. And I also feel bad for Justin Fields, but at the same time, I'm glad for Tom Brady and the Bucks. They won 38-3. Tom Brady, the only quarterback to throw 600 touchdown passes. 600. And I mean, their offense looked good. The running game looked good. Tom Brady, no signs of slowing down. As for the Bears, their defense is so good. I would say good. Yes, they gave up 38, but I mean, for any defense, when you're out there a lot of the time, you're gonna there's gonna be a crack. So I mean, just a bad spot for Fields, pretty much. And now with Matt Nagy testing positive for COVID, it's just gonna be a weird situation for the Bears. And then rainy, I would say a really good visual was Sunday night in Levi Stadium as the Colts won a interesting weather game in very rainy Levi Stadium. Colts win 30-18 over the Niners. I mean, Carson Wentz is really finding his groove. He's rolling. Jonathan Taylor is having a heck of a year so far. For the Niners, I mean, they start off good, but they kind of fizzled out. I mean, no Trey Lance, he was out with an injury. I mean, you can see why they drafted Trey Lance because, excuse me, because Garoppolo is an accurate passer. He can definitely throw the ball. However, he gets injured and he's not really mobile. Trey Lance is mobile, but he's still not very polished as a passer. Which, I mean, if he was polished as a passer, then that would open up a lot more element as far as Kyle Shannon's play calling. But with this dynamic, it's just unfortunate. And they had some good drives. They just couldn't finish the job. Um, Niners dropping four straight. It's just not a good look. And then to cap off week 7 was a defensive score that, again, in a league where it's mostly about scoring, 13-10, Saints win. And it was ugly. Um, Missed opportunities by the Saints. You know, Seahawks are kind of crippled without Russell Wilson. They did have that big play to DK Metcalf, but since that, they were pretty much one-dimensional on offense. And Demario Davis just wreaked havoc for Seahawks offense, point blank. But yeah, an interesting week 7. Again, 12-1. The Bengals, yeah. Thank you, Bengals. Thank you. So now, World Series is set as the Braves took care of the Dodgers, the reigning champion Dodgers. There will not be a repeat this year. It's going to be the Braves versus the Astros in the World Series. Sort of unexpected, you could pretty much say, because the Braves, it was mid of the season, and then the Braves were third in their division, and it looked like the Mets were going to run away with it. It just, the momentum just appeared to be in their favor, and then injuries piled up to Grom. You know, injuries just hit them, and then the Phillies, it looked like they were doing well, and then the Braves made some mid-season acquisitions, and then since then they've just really seized their opportunities, and you know, they powered through to win the division. They beat Milwaukee, and now they beat the Dodgers, and Just not much to say other than kudos to the Braves. This is apparently their first World Series since '99 against the Astros. The Astros that have cheated, and whether people like it or not, they're somehow in the World Series after being the Chicago White Sox and being the Red Sox, which were a great story as well. Um, Being second in their division, but ultimately coming short to the Astros. So my mind's on the Braves, although I would not be shocked if it's a close series, pretty much. So yeah, my thoughts there. Uh, Now after that, shifting towards UFC 267, which is this Saturday, headlined by Jan Blachowicz taking on Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira, he's won 5 straight, and can Glover pull it off? Can he do it against Mr. Polish Power, Jan Blachowicz? We'll see, but also few other interesting fights to know about on the card. Li Jianling versus Kazmat Shamaev. Interesting fight. You got Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura. If I had to pick, I would say Volkov in that fight, although it should be an interesting fight. And then the co-main event, an interim UFC title fight, because Aljamain Sterling still has not recovered yet from neck surgery. So it's going to be Peter Yan, the former champion, versus Corey Sandhagen, who I know people were wondering that he just lost in a great fight versus TJ Dillashaw. But my guess is TJ is not healthy, and Corey Sandhagen number 2, so or number 3, either way, top contender. Should be a very interesting fight as well. But the main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. Two good stories where it was not pretty for Jan first in the UFC. He lost Gustafsson, and then he had to find his way back. And then he knocked out Corey Anderson, and he knocked out Dominic Reyes. And he is currently 205-pound champion. He also beat Israel Sanya in his first defense. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see him versus Glover and what could be Glover's last stand. And but Glover, he's gotten better somehow, and we'll see if it can finally pay off. We'll see. But I'm intrigued about that fight. So is that now? Let's get into the main lasting part. So week 8, NFL week 8. So hope everyone has a good Halloween, as NFL week 8, the bulk of the games are going to be on Halloween. Some interesting matchups to look forward to. Well, let's get into them all, shall we? So 12-1. 15 games now this week. Um, Very good week 7. We'll just have to see for week 8, see how we do. But see, the thing is, when picking games, you can't pick all the favorites. That's just not how it works. If you want to get, say, a 14-2, or here the case with 15 games, a 13-2 or a 14-1, you have to pick some upsets. It's just a case of which upsets you pick correctly, pretty much. We'll see here. As we start with a great game on Thursday, Packers going to Arizona, 6-1 for 7-0. Cardinals 3.5-point favorites. Now, interesting news. The Packers will be without their defense coordinator, Joe Barry, who has improved that defense, as well as their top receiver, Devontae Adams. So that's going to be an interesting test as they're undermanned. And I'm not sure about the size of Zadarius Smith. So interesting stat as well going into Arizona. I think this will be a close one. Probably not as high scoring, but with the added news about Green Bay, I'm going with Arizona. A tight one, 26-24, to get to 8-0. So then we move to Halloween Sunday games. Cincinnati Bengals versus going to East Rutherford to play, which I'm assuming Joe Flacco, who they traded for today, Joe Flacco and the Jets, with Zach Wilson being out with that PCL injury. How can you bet against the Bengals after that monstrous victory in Baltimore? Since the 9.5-point favorites, I think it's a bit fair. But I'm going with the Bengals to win 27-14 over the Jets. Get to 6-2. Then we got another dicey one. We got the Titans, 5-2 Tennessee Titans, after those big wins over Buffalo and Kansas City. Now facing their division rival, which are rolling as well, the Colts. Colts 1-point favorites at home. So likely means that if it was a neutral site, then Titans will be favored. Titans have to keep their foot on the gas pedal. Now, if they had lost to Kansas City, I would feel differently. But yes, the Titans, it's not going to be easy, but I think they can grind this out and get the W in Indy, 23-20 over Indy. So then we get to Rams going to Houston. Houston's got another problem. They host the Rams. This smells like a trap game, but I know if the Rams want to be as good as we know they can be, then they cannot fall asleep at the wheel with this one. Rams 14.5 point favorites. So originally had 30-16, but I'm gonna go 33-16. The Rams. Then we got an interesting one in Cleveland. So Pittsburgh 3-3 now, 500, going to Cleveland to play the Browns. Nick Chubb is back at practice. Jack Conklin back at practice. So expect to see some people back. I don't think Baker Mayfield is probably going to be healthy to play here. Jarvis Landry, we'll have to see about him. But so Pittsburgh, we know their formula now. Running the ball and being a balanced offense. But Cleveland 3-point favorites. This is the type of game I think Pittsburgh will like. Because without Baker and without them being 100%, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. So I think it'll be a close one, but I'm going with the Browns to win this 24-20. So then we go to Detroit as the Lions host the Eagles. Eagles 3.5-point favorites. Lions have been playing tough. Philly seems to be in just a loss type of mode. I think this is the week. Halloween is the day that Detroit gets the win. And I'm going with they get a win for Dan Campbell, and the Lions win over the Eagles 21-17 in Detroit for their fans. So then we get San Francisco. The 49ers have lost 4 straight, going into Chicago to play the Bears. The Bears' offense did not look good against the Buccaneers. The 49ers have looked not the same. If only Robbie Gould was playing, but I think he's still injured, so he's going to be out. This is going to be a defensive matchup. I can just sense it. It's going to be a defensive matchup. But I mean, I think with Khalil Herbert, them running the ball, I think they got good slew of receivers in Chicago. I'm going with the Bears to get this win. And who knows, maybe Matt Nagy's positive testing may invigorate them, perhaps do it for him, and perhaps they get done 23-21 in Chicago. So then we got a game which, if you asked me weeks ago about it had a different suspicion, but Panthers going to Atlanta. Atlanta has won 2 straight, now 500, 3-3. Panthers are now 3-4, dropping 4 straight. Falcons 2.5-point favorites. I mean, Sam Darnold was benched. He's going to save the starter, see how it rebounds. But I mean, Kyle Pitts is growing and looking more like we thought before the draft, and he's going to be a nightmare. I just got to go with Falcons to win 28-21. Crazy that they would be above 500 and still in the thick of things. But yeah. So then we got Miami going to Buffalo. Miami 1-6, once again losing a heartbreaker to the Falcons. You know, Bills off a bye, 13-point favorites. A bit much. I mean, Tua has played well the last couple weeks. So yeah, I think it's a bit much. So I think Miami covers, but still, Buffalo off a bye just too well. I gotta go with the Bills to win this 31-23. They get their 5th win of the season. So we got the Patriots going to LA, play the Chargers. Rematch of last season when the Patriots blew out the Chargers, and now off a bye, new coach. They look distraught versus the Ravens. We'll just have to see, because the momentum, I just think, with the Patriots, they're getting better and better each week. And Chargers, this could get ugly, but, from what I've seen, Patriots need this win more than Chargers, and because they're in a stretch where they need to get one win out of these few to be in the mix. And I think this is the win for them. So I'm going with the Patriots to get this win. Although it'll be close, 27-23 in LA. Then we got an interesting game. We got Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a bye after a win in London over the Dolphins, going to Seattle to play Seahawks team that only scored 10 points against the Saints. Seahawks 3.5 point favorites. Trevor Lawrence is improving and getting better week after week, and I think that win was a confidence booster for Jacksonville. So I just don't like what I'm seeing from the Seahawks offense. So right now, I'm gonna go with the Jags. Get their second win of the season. 21-16. So then we got Washington going to Denver. Denver 3-point favorites. I mean, that altitude is going to be difficult, but Broncos, I don't know, against Cleveland, what's the status of Von Miller? It's going to be a question, but, like I said, Washington played good on offense versus the Packers. Their offense just couldn't punch it in. And, I just see more firepower on that Washington offense to trust more than I do the Broncos offense. So I'm going to go in a bit more high scoring matchup. 28-24, Washington wins. So then we get to an underrated matchup of the week. What could steal the show come Halloween in the slew of games. Tampa Bay going to New Orleans. Tampa Bay 4.5 point favorites in New Orleans. The offense for the Saints felt lacking. Without Taysom Hill, without Michael Thomas, though, but their defense came to play, and James Winston, there are balls dropped in that game, and just his stats, it's a shame because he put it on some good passes and receivers didn't help him out. So I'm still going with the Bucks, although I do think it can be close. And Buccaneers win this 34-21. Then we get a Sunday night football. Cowboys off bye. Vikings off a bye. In Minnesota. Cowboys 2.5 point favorites. One of the more interesting matchups to pick because Vikings got some good momentum, being 3-3 now. Cowboys 5-1 off that overtime victory. The status of Dak Prescott, how healthy is he gonna be? They get Michael Gallup back. It seems like Vegas likes Minnesota because they've been giving them low lines, whether they're the favorites or they're the underdogs, but they're respected by Vegas. There's no big line when it comes to a Vikings game. Now, success of Dak Prescott is definitely going to be a question. I think this will be a high-scoring game. I'm going with the Cowboys to win this. Cowboys win 33-28, although, yeah, but we'll see. But should be interesting. 38, 33, 28, I score. And then the cap off. Week 8. Monday Night Football, the Giants go to the Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Chiefs 9.5-point favorites. I mean, kind of a bit much, don't you think? I mean, Chiefs have looked not special. Looked very unimpressive the last few weeks. I mean, I don't know what other words to say. Their offense and their defense, just not anything impressive. The Giants, they got a gutsy win against Carolina. Should get Darius Slayton back. I think it'll be a week till Saquon Barkley's back. I'm in the thick of things, and I just don't feel confident picking the Chiefs right now. I just don't. Therefore, I'm picking the Giants to win this. Call me crazy, call me not, but what the Chiefs have been doing is not impressive or good. So I'm going to go with the Giants, get this win 24-19. And that's that. So, anyway. Anyway, those are my predictions for Week 8 of the NFL season. And that's the end of the episode for you guys. But thank you for joining me. If you did like this video, click that like. And if you want to see more Sports TV topics or any other videos on the channel, click that subscribe as well. But thank you. I'll be back later this week with my pro wrestling reviews, as well as my sports topics next week. But thank you. Be safe. Peace.